I think it's going back to that more, I want to call it that awakening where people are learning that there are these alternatives and we need to treat the body holistically. We need to look at all the different aspects and how they are linked together so we can treat them correctly.
Yeah. And often people are doing this when they're not getting the results they want from the Western perspective. And I also, I don't feel like acupuncture is the end all be all. I used to. But you come to realize that everyone needs to heal in their own particular way. And I've seen where acupuncture has not worked well for the person. And it was just some other shift that they needed from some other modality, whatever that was, that I couldn't offer. And so I do love to work with, I love collaborating with other people and sending people elsewhere as well, because sometimes they just need something completely different.
Welcome back to Hear Me Out with Belinda. Before I introduce today's guest, if you're enjoying the content of the show, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Reagan, a traditional Chinese medical doctor and acupuncturist. Welcome in the studio, Reagan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Me too.
So I think I've said to you, I always like a person's journey, right? Because I don't think in high school you chose traditional Chinese medical as a career.
No.
Right? So how did you become, like, what made you go into that field?
I guess early on, even if I do look back to high school times, I was always interested in even just like natural products and stuff. And at the same time, I suffered hormonal and painful cycles. And even back then, I just couldn't understand that this was considered like normal. And how was this much pain considered normal? And so even then it was like, this doesn't make sense. Like there has to be something more out there. So that was sort of in the back of my mind for a long time, but I didn't realize, of course, back then that there was anything. And then I started traveling when I was in school. And my interests were always in Eastern cultures. So I started with like Western religions, and then that went into Eastern religions. So I did the gamut in school. As you do, first year university, everything from psychology to Buddhism, which I guess sort of they can kind of play into each other. But and so then this interest in Eastern culture started when I was sort of in university. And then I feel like both of my parents were in the medical field, and so from a genetic perspective, I think that was always there. And I ended up, I have a very interesting, uncohesive history, some of us do. I was a winemaker for 15 years, and during that time, I had thought about going to Chinese medicine school, and I had put it aside because winemaking is quite fun, as you can imagine. But there was just something missing. I just always felt like, I just needed to be giving back. There was this thing, it's like, I don't feel like I'm giving back to society. And that's just something that, it just felt kind of empty, I guess. I was having fun, but it just still wasn't feeling, my cup wasn't filled. And then I made the jump after that.
Okay.
Sorry, that was really long-winded.
That's okay. It's your story. It's a journey.
Right, yeah.
So how long is the education to become a traditional Chinese medical doctor?
So you can do it a couple of different ways. So if you want to just be a registered acupuncturist, it's a 3-year course. And then I figured if I was going to do it, I'm going to do the whole hog. And so I did a double major, and that was in traditional Chinese medicine, which is the herbal formulas. So that's all the herb side. And then that is in tandem with the acupuncture side. And so, yeah, that's a double major. And then that was 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can do that full time, or can you do that online?
When I started, we were during COVID, and I thought this is probably a pretty good time to start studying
Yeah.
and being online. And so you can do a little bit of online, but then they really want you to get hands-on and start being able to um, understand. Point location is kind of the biggest thing, and understanding anatomy and where points are and that kind of thing, and just getting you used to being in that position where you're playing the part of doctor, right?
And so then for yourself, you did talk a little bit about, I think, your menstrual cycle and just the cramping and the pain that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
So COVID is probably it's about 6 years since the start,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And how has your journey helped you with that?
It has helped. And I definitely lean on the medicine when I need to, but it's kind of like you've heard this story about the shoemaker's son has no shoes. So I don't probably practice it on myself as much as I should.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in your own practice, do you use
Mm.
a lot of the herbs, or do you focus more on the acupuncture?
In my own practice for people, I do both, actually. I feel like, I mean, when you look back at ancient Chinese texts, the Chinese characters on them for acupuncture actually include characters that include the herbs. So there's like a character for herbs and a character for the acupuncture. So I feel historically they've gone hand in hand forever. You can get away with just doing the needling, but I find the herbal medicine, I feel like it's half the medicine sometimes. They're just really, really powerful. So,
Herbs,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And where do you get the herbs from? Do you have to get them from the Far
Yeah.
East, or can you get them here? Or
No, so I do order them in. There's a little company in Vancouver, and they order it in from China. So all of the herbs are they're based out of China. There's some that you would probably recognize the names of the English names, but they're all sourced and processed in China. And then they're brought over here, and then I order from them. So it's a few steps to get here.
to get them,
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously all Health Canada approved and everything to be imported.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everything.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So I know I was brought up in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay.
And I remember I used to actually struggle with a lot of migraine headaches as a
Okay.
young adult.
Yeah.
And I started work at a specific hotel, which was pretty close to what we would have called Chinatown
Right.
then.
Yeah.
And this is going back to the early 90s. And I remember a colleague of mine had said to me, because I was really struggling, with the headaches, and she said, you should go try them. There's this traditional Chinese medical clinic in Chinatown. Go in. And so the one Friday afternoon, I walked in there, and I remember that they didn't speak a lot of English. It was definitely, very much within, Chinatown, very much a cultural place. But yeah, they definitely helped me. I told them, what was, happening, and kind of laid down, had the needles, had the cupping. They did give me some herbal medicine, and then I think there was like several appointments. But I do remember it was about within a month, and the headaches had stopped.
Mm.
And that is something that you don't think about, right? Because now they've solved the problem. So you've had your medication, you've had your acupuncture, and then you sort of carry on with your life. And for me, life happened was we were immigrating and all of that. So a lot of things happening. We got to Canada. And it's something that I hadn't really thought about until I was pregnant with my second son. And I really wanted to have a natural birth. But because my older one had been an emergency C-section in the end, they had said that, well, you have up until this date to give birth naturally, otherwise we have to,
Right.
go in.
Yeah.
And I'd gone up to I think there's a clinic in Calgary where you can go, and I'd had the acupuncture to try and, induce labor, just one session. And unfortunately, it didn't work, So in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh, it doesn't work. But on the other hand, I thought to myself, when I was having my oldest son back in South Africa, I wanted a natural birth as well. And my OBGYN had said to me on the Friday at my 38-week checkup that, you know what, I got last-minute tickets to go to the Sevens rugby in the UK. So I'm actually leaving on Thursday. So I just recommend he come in on Tuesday to be induced.
Oh.
And I was like, but that's not what I want. That's not part of my birth plan.
Right.
And he was like, well, and they do really scare you, at that point. He's like, well, if you want to give birth naturally, that's fine. But just please be aware there may not be a doctor on duty to help you, so you are putting yourself and your baby at risk.
Geez.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying when I think back to it now. So, what do? You book your appointment, you go in to be induced. With 11 hours later through pain. He did become an emergency. Like, I don't think he was ready at 38 weeks. He wanted another 2 weeks inside where it was warm. But anyway, he came out, he's beautiful, he's healthy, he's 19 now. But my point being, like, you dismiss a traditional medicine, forgetting that the Western medicine didn't work either, right? That induction did not work.
Right.
It's the same as acupuncture did not work, right? And maybe it was just, that once-off thing that your body's not ready or that type of thing. But
that's interesting.
Going back into, you have to give it time. Like anything, you can't just do something once off. I don't think you have to give it time.
Yeah. And I find that that is the hardest thing for people to wrap their head around when they come in for acupuncture the first time, because we are groomed as a society, and it's what we know, is that you go to a doctor, they give you medicine, and everything is fixed, and that's all you have to do. Whereas in Chinese medicine, what we're trying to do is we are asking your body to physiologically change. And so that is not something that happens in an instant. And so when you do that, it does take time. And it's that piece, and it's also, what got you to this point where you need the medicine. And maybe it's lifestyle. And so then that's another difficult piece that I find is really challenging for people to be like, well, yes, you can do the acupuncture and maybe it won't work. And the reason might be because you're in fight or flight, or you've been stressed out every single day for the last 3 years. You know what I mean? And so, so there's pieces of it that are difficult for sure. And it's interesting for you to put it in that light, because I've never really thought of it that way before. Like, maybe the acupuncture didn't work. Yes, maybe you needed more. Maybe the body wasn't ready, as you said. But it's also, like you say, the Western didn't work in particular well either. So yeah. So it's it's a mind shift in one sense. And just being open to things that can take time. I mean, if you look in nature, and that's the biggest part of it, is that nothing in nature is rushed, you know? And so when you do decide you want to take a natural route, you do have to keep in mind that it might be a slower process. So yeah.
I know when I used to work in Calgary, I actually did have a traditional Chinese medical doctor and acupuncturist that I would go to, actually primarily for relaxation and cupping. I had a 1 hour lunch, so I was like, I have a 55-minute appointment. I'm in and out today. And so she had said to me that when she had done her training years ago, she had done, I think it was maybe 6 months somewhere within China.
Right.
And it was very fascinating to hear that they have this, I'm going to assume it's still the same, I've never traveled to China myself, where they have this parallel medical system where you would walk into an emergency room And if you're, having chest pain or symptoms of a heart attack, or you've been involved in a car accident, you're definitely going almost like the Western medicine route, that emergency care, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going in with a chronic illness, they're actually pushing you to the traditional Chinese medicine side,
Wow.
where they're going to treat you and really try examine, I think they call it the qi maybe out of balance, and they're going to see what's happening within the body, what caused that, and then they're going to try and treat it with the traditional herbs or the acupuncture, and that type of thing. So I really felt that was quite interesting to hear how
beautiful system, and it makes sense. And I tell people that all the time, like, don't come and see me if you're having a heart attack, please. It's very much, and we need Western medicine for sure. It definitely has its place, but it's less so proactive. Whereas the traditional Chinese medicine, it's more proactive, and it's great for chronic sort of things too. And there was a piece, sorry, that I just wanted to go back to too before I forgot, is the also being aware. I think in Chinese medicine too, a big piece is that like going back to your story, and you, in your mind, you felt it was too early. And so one thing that I try to promote with my patients is this self-awareness and being more in tune with your body, and that empowerment to go, to be able to say to your midwife or whatever, it's like, no, this is how I feel, and this is what I feel like we should do. And being confident in saying that, and not just going by, this is what the doctor is telling me to do, so then I will do it, because I think we get very complacent and we should trust our doctors. We should absolutely listen to what they're saying. But in your particular case, like I want to go to that just makes me crazy.
I know.
I'm
and
sure
like
it made you crazy as well.
Did. And going back to, that is, I don't know, I've been out of South Africa for almost 19 years now, so I can't really speak to the medical system today.
Sure.
But definitely at that time, I was really angry. I'd actually gone to somebody else for a second opinion. She was a female, obviously, but she was not an, I think, OBGYN or a gynecologist. And she had basically said the same thing to me. She said, you need to follow the advice of your doctor. If you go back through history, women in childbirth have, died. But really, like, there was this
fear factor.
This fear factor to everything. But really not even talking about, well, if you go back through history, a lot of women did die, but it was due to, lack of medical care, lack of, sanitation, people washing their hands, all those type of things.
Yeah.
But I was, and you're young, you really don't know. You want to do what's right for yourself and your child, so you have to follow it. But that was private medical care, where really the doctors would dictate what's happening.
Well, and it really still is that way too. And then to your point about going back in history, well, if you go back farther enough in history, there were no medical doctors. Women have been giving birth for a very long time, and they didn't have a hospital to go to, and we still seem to be, they made it, that sort of thing. So it just, that piece, and that fear piece is always, it's tricky, because yes, their job is to keep you as safe as possible. That's their duty. And so yes, they're going to go by, this is the safest route for sure. But it's just so frustrating.
So interesting.
So yes, and they should, and even now, I mean, I would never tell a patient to go against what their doctor is recommending. But know your body, know what's going on. And when I work with a patient, I do my best, if they're interested, I do my best to lay out what I am seeing from a Chinese medicine perspective. Like they call them patterns of disharmony. So these are the patterns that I'm seeing. This is what is out of balance. This is why you have the symptoms that you do. And this is what we're going to do to try to get you back to health. And I think that's as you said, with the hospital that deals more with chronic issues in China, they do. The whole concept of Chinese medicine is to try and figure out what is the root cause. Because if you have a root cause, it's like a roadmap to how do you get past that? How do you fix that? Whereas putting a Band-Aid on it and stifling the symptoms, that's not getting better. It's just masking what's already there. And the scary part about that is that if you are just stifling symptoms, the body is going to find another way to manifest it. And an interesting thing that I've noticed in my relatively short time of practicing, but in the time that I have, um, is that often, again, and I never want to say that people should not take the medications that they've been prescribed, for sure. Like it's safety; they're needed when they're needed, but at the same time, keeping in mind that take them, but also think of maybe, well, how do I fix it so I don't have to take them? So I've seen many patients who are on suppressive medications, and that could be anxiety or depression. And they come to me after years of taking this sort of thing because they have this inexplicable nerve pain. And it's on a random part of the body. It's like on the side of the foot or it's in the rib cage. And Western doctors can't tell them why it's happening because they don't know. And my simple theory, as humble as it may be, is that you're suppressing something, but the body is still trying to deal with the root cause is still there. So this pain is going to find another way to manifest, and that's where it's coming out is through the nerves and weird parts of the body that have no relationship to any other Western defined ailment, So it's just anyway. It's so fascinating. It's such a fascinating medicine, and it's so practical. And it makes so much sense in so many ways, which is just why I love it. But yes, Western, to have that piece of Western and Eastern working side by side is brilliant. I would adore that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be an interesting shift, right? I feel like there's a lot more people um, awakening to these more traditional practices, whether
Right.
it's traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture or,
Yeah.
reflexology or
Yes.
um, I'm just trying to think, herbalism or being a
Sure.
naturopath,
Oh,
all of
yeah,
those different
absolutely.
things,
Yeah.
I think are these alternates, right? Because people, like I said, we can't do without our medical doctors,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they're definitely much respected and
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right that there's a part of us that needs healing.
Mm.
And if we're not addressing how to heal it and really pay attention, I think one of my favorite authors is, I think I'm going to say his name right, it's Gabor Mate. And
Okay.
he wrote a book where it says when the body says no.
Right.
And I'm actually in the middle of reading that. And I think it's really along the same lines. If you've got that stress and you're not dealing with it, your body is reacting. Your body's actually getting sick. So going back to what you're saying, if you're not treating what's actually causing your body to be sick, you're not actually healing at all. You're just putting that Band-Aid on,
That's
and
right.
then your body's gonna pop out.
Yeah, it's going to find
Somewhere else.
another area to come out. And he was here recently. Did
He
you
was
go and
here.
see him?
I didn't manage to
No,
get
I
into
didn't
seeing him.
either.
I was really
Yeah.
sad that I missed him.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
did have a lot of friends that got to go and see him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that would have been wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's all, like I said, I think it's going back to that more, I want to call it that awakening where people are learning that
Yep.
there are these alternatives and we need to treat the body holistically. We need to look at all the different aspects and how they are linked together so we can treat them correctly.
Yeah. And I feel like, and often people are doing this when they're not getting the results they want from the Western perspective. And I also, I don't feel like acupuncture is the end all be all. I used to. But you come to realize that everyone needs to heal in their own particular way. And I've seen where acupuncture has not worked well for the person. And it was just some other shift that they needed from some other modality, whatever that was, that I couldn't offer. And so I do love to work with, I love collaborating with other people and sending people elsewhere as well, because sometimes they just need something completely different. And I think the other piece too is that I was speaking to the woman who actually inspired me to go into natural medicine. So she was a naturopath. She was one of the first I think registered naturopaths. So they didn't have a school, like whatever it would have been, probably 50 odd years ago. So they had to go through a chiropractic college in order to get registered. I don't know how it worked in particular, but so she was one of the first people to. I think she was one. She like rallied for the practice to come together and be recognized. Anyway, she's obviously very inspiring to me. But yeah, so at the time that I saw her, she had been practicing for 40 years, and she just knew everything there was to know about the body. But I spoke to her recently, excuse me, and she was saying that it's getting harder and harder to treat people. And she said people are just getting more and more complicated, which is really it's sad, but it's not surprising, with what we deal with on a daily basis, and especially now with the onslaught of social media and news events, and can we possibly deal with everything that's going on? And so again, going back to that, they're starting to search out other ways because they're realizing that we need more than just a prescription medication and something to stifle what we're feeling. Like we need to actually deal with this yeah. So I'm happy that there are more modalities out there and it's getting more attention for sure. So yeah. Do you get acupuncture anymore? Are you still going?
You know what? I haven't been in a long time. I just
and sometimes you just don't need to. You're in a good place. So
I do regular massage therapy right now.
Yeah.
So I do think as long as you have something, an outlet, and the clinic I do have, here at Canada here in Okotoks. So I do get to talk to a lot of people, which is really amazing, and help improve their quality of life by treating their hearing loss. And while doing that, get to hear the amazing stories of their journeys. And so that's also what's really opened my eyes to all these different modalities as well, of hearing what they've been doing or what's worked from them, or maybe 60 years ago, what happened or that type of thing. So I think it's been really fascinating.
And everyone, and that was one of the biggest eye openers for me when I first started, because as an intern, you go in and people, they open up to you. I'm sure they do with you as well. And you get stories that blow you away, and you start to realize that every person that comes in to see you is struggling with something. Like everyone is going or has gone through something. And you look at them and go, how are you even functioning? Like, how are you managing to keep it together on a daily basis? And we just do, and so, we are kind of like pushing down all these stresses and hopefully getting support in other ways, right? Massage or whatever modality it is. So it is. It's fascinating. I love that side of it too, that you get to know people really well when they come to see you often. And
And I think it goes back to just building those communities, right?
Yes,
creating those networks, those communities, so that you can collaborate with others when necessary, but also for yourself. You have people that you can connect with and talk to. Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And bouncing ideas off of each other too, because you do start to feel like you're a bit of an island when you just work at one clinic and you're just doing your thing. So it's good to get different perspective on things, and especially with Chinese medicine too, because there's a million different theories out there, and it's such an ancient medicine that it's you can interpret it in many different ways as well. So, different perspective is always very good for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Reagan, it's been a wonderful chat today. Thank you for coming on the show and
Thank
talking
you for having me. I so appreciate the time to talk about it and and share. I wish it was more known to more people, because it can be just so incredibly helpful. So I really appreciate this platform for being able to share.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And thanks again.
Thank you.